Okay, sometimes I just feel really compelled to make these videos now, and it's just certain things set me off. Now, when watching videos, people talking about X-Men Apocalypse, and just, you know, I already did a video about that, a review kind of the reviews, and I guess I could go into a little bit more detail, but I'm sure you've watched all those videos too. Um, X-Men Apocalypse is getting a universal meh. It's better than Batman vs Superman. Another movie I haven't seen, and just another movie on my long list of movies that I plan not to see, basically. If I ever get a chance to see it for free, maybe, but I'm not paying for it. Just no. Now this video though specifically was made in mind with telling everyone what I know as the origins of Apocalypse. Now, this is from my 90s comic book knowledge vault in my head that probably could be used for storing way more useful information, but that's where the bulk of my comic book knowledge, that from full on reading X-Men and collecting X-Men comics in the early 90s to the late 90s, even into the 2000s a bit, yeah. Um, but yeah, this is my knowledge of what Apocalypse is, because one of the things I've actually heard a few people mention about Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse is that he was boring. And I don't know, I mean, in the movie, he does look kind of boring. I mean, he doesn't, they don't do him the way I remember I pictured him from the comics anyways. So, in my view, just as my view of him, first of all, they didn't make him near utilitarian enough. I just probably maybe just made up a weird word. I don't know. Anyway, so in the comic book, he is completely 100% about survival of the fittest. He thinks that only the strong should survive, and that's partly because of how he was raised in ancient Egypt. Now, from what I could see in the trailers and what I've seen in the spoilers I've watched, he is kind of raised in ancient Egypt in in the movie, but it's different. Now, one thing you have to understand, and okay, just to let you know, people. Like I said, this is my knowledge from the '90s. This could have been retconned to hell. Everything I'm saying right now could be complete and utter gibberish if someone from X-Men's decided to go and say, well, none of that actually happened. But this is the way I read it, and this is the way I understood it, and personally myself, this is the way Apocalypse makes a lot more sense to me. But anyways, one of the big things about Apocalypse is he's been around a long time, and he will be around for even longer. Um, Everyone's seen Deadpool now, and this is a spoiler if you haven't, if you're like the three people that haven't seen Deadpool in the world. At the end, Deadpool says that Cable is going to be in the next movie. Cable is directly tied into Apocalypse because Cable, and this is another spoiler alert from the comic books. And that's the last time I'm gonna say that because this is gonna have there's tons of massive random spoilers for comics and stuff like that. Cable is the son of Scott Summers and Jean Grey, who was sent to the future to be raised by psychics in the future and raised with the express purpose of being the one to take down Apocalypse because Apocalypse is that bad. So Apocalypse has been around for a long time, and from what we've seen of people coming from the future, he's going to be a problem even in the future. Now, Cable isn't the only time traveler that they've used to try and deal with Apocalypse. There is another guy, but this guy holds a special place because if he hadn't did what he did to try and stop Apocalypse, Apocalypse wouldn't be who he is right now. Isn't that great? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this guy is, he's not a very well-known villain in the Marvel Universe, but he is impressive because he's directly responsible for Apocalypse, pretty much. He's a guy called Kang the Conqueror. Now, Kang the Conqueror comes from a dystopian future, from what I know, where Apocalypse has killed everything, he's killing everyone, and they only have one thing they can do left. And Kang takes his insanely futuristic ship that can time travel and goes back in time. Now, where does he go? He tries to go to when Apocalypse was born, in ancient Egypt, to try and kill him then. And yeah, that just, you can tell that doesn't go right. So, from what I know, first he tries to time travel, he does it, but he lands far too early. He lands years before Apocalypse is born. He crashes his ship and has to get out. And thing is because he's from way in the future, he has knowledge of everything that happens. So what does he do? Of course, he does what everyone else would do. He becomes a pharaoh. So now he rules Egypt, and he knows that Apocalypse is going to be born soon. He's just not exactly sure when. So he starts getting, having people that look different killed, in the hopes that he will end up calling Apocalypse before he becomes Apocalypse. Pardon me one sec. Pardon me, yeah, there you go. Now, of course, this doesn't work at all. What happens is Apocalypse is born, and he looks different when he's born. So the people are scared that it's a bad omen, that he's a demon in this child. So they go abandon him in the middle of the desert, and I think it's quite a while he's out there, but he doesn't die. Even as a baby, he's struggling to survive. Now the thing is, he looks different because he's one of the first mutants. Now I said one of the first because I believe they've retconned now. There was one other mutant, or not one, but there was mutants before. And one of the things I like is they've made one of those mutants. This is not him from First Class. The red Nightcrawler looking dude. I cannot remember his name right now. That's gonna haunt me. But he's the Red Devil guy. Exactly, Devil. They thought he was the freaking devil because he had red skin, pointy ears, and he was actually banished to another dimension. But he is another mutant from the past, and that guy is, in the comic books, Nightcrawler's father. He was one of the first mutants, and he can get back into our dimension for a certain amount of time, but then he has to go back to the dimension he was banished to. And one of the times he did it, he was here, him and Mystique, and that's what got Nightcrawler. And I don't know, Nightcrawler is one of my favorite characters. Anything to do with him is cool to me. But yeah, anyways, so Apocalypse out in the desert as a baby is found by a group of nomads, and these nomads are they're the strongest. The strongest survive. They're alive because they're the strongest, and they find this baby who's been out in the desert by itself for 3 or 4 days or something, still alive. They are genuinely impressed by his strength, and they don't give a crap what he looks like because he's strong. So he's adopted by the chief of this tribe and raised by them to be a warrior, and raised in their mindset of the strongest survive, and he is powerful. The chief of the tribe, who is his adopted father, is just, everyone loves him. They don't give a crap that he looks different. He's got weird lines on his face because that's Apocalypse, and yeah, he was, and this is all due to Kang trying to stop him. So Apocalypse is raised, and then he ends up, I believe it's him and his adopted father, find the crashed time ship that Kang crashed years ago. They get it, well, they go to try and get inside. Apocalypse's father is killed, which annoys Apocalypse a little. I mean, Apocalypse is, as pissed off as Apocalypse is, he goes, well, if he was strong, he wouldn't have died. You know, and he's already in a great mindset to become a supervillain at this point. And then things get worse because he gets inside the future time ship, which I believe, I'm not 100% sure about this, I believe has celestial technology in it. And up until this point, Apocalypse hasn't really looked like the Apocalypse we know. It's when he's in the ship, that's when he gets the armor, the blue armor. And I believe that's where he also gets the ability to go into his regenerative sleeps. He just decides he's going to lie down for a few hundred years and absorb the life force of, well, anyone he can grab. And that's how he stayed alive, basically, for like thousands and thousands of years. Yeah, and yeah, so he comes out of there and then conquers. I believe he goes and spanks King, who is pretty surprised and is like, "Oh wow, so this is all my fault, and I can't undo it because I've done it already, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again after that." And he started a loop basically that he can't get his ass out of. So thanks, Kang. Everyone in the Marvel Universe appreciates that. And yeah, so this is where Apocalypse came from. He not only is he a mutant, like I'm not exactly sure what his powers are, to be honest with you. All I know is he kicks a lot of ass, like a lot of ass in the comic books. Now, one of the things one of the reasons why I don't think they did him really well in the movie too is the fact that he's so much darker than they give him credit for. Because he was part of one of the darkest storylines I've ever seen in the Marvel Universe, which was known as Age of Apocalypse. And quick synopsis of Age of Apocalypse, or quick reason why it happened. Professor X's son, way back in the day, was a crazy. He is a crazy strong mutant. Back in the day, he was also crazy mentally. Was very schizophrenic. He had different personality disorders as well, and very very powerful. Now, flash forward to modern day X-Men. His mind is healed now. He's all whole in the mind, and he understands. He remembers what he did to the X-Men and how much of a dick he was. So he goes, "Dad, I'm sorry I was a dick. I'm gonna do you a solid. Wait here." And everyone's like, "Wait, what are you doing?" And super strong gathers all this energy in the desert. X-Men go out to stop him. Turns out he was gathering the energy to jump backwards in time. Now, he's shunted back in time to Cairo when his dad was, before his dad was Professor X, and before Eric Lesher was Magneto. Um, they were friends, and they were visiting Egypt. He shunts back in time to then with some of the X-Men. Now, his plan to do his dad a solid is to hunt down and kill Eric before he becomes Magneto, because that'll save his dad a bunch of trouble later. Yay, logic. That's just, David Haller is his name, by the way. David, it was a good idea, I guess, but dude, just the execution was a little not there, man. So, anyways, the X-Men try and stop him. They fight. He's about to kill Magneto, but because Eric and Charles are still friends, Charles is like, no, and jumps in the way and gets killed instead of Magneto. And this creates a paradox because Charles is killed by his own son, who freaks out and literally pops like a balloon because temporally he doesn't exist no more. So Eric is cradling the body of his dead friend who sacrificed his life for him, while the rest of the X-Men go, uh-oh, and then they pop too. Everyone except for a guy named Bishop. And the only reason Bishop doesn't pop is because Bishop was already a time traveler from the future. Now, when he does, everyone disappears, it does mess his head up pretty bad. And he does have to stay in Cairo and live from there. But he's the only, everything else in the Marvel Universe gets covered by crystals, and that ties into a little something called the M-Crown crystal, which ties into Phoenix, which ties into a whole bunch of other stuff. I'll maybe do another video about that. It's a whole other rant about Phoenix and Dark Phoenix. But anyways, so so Magneto's cradling Charles's body, saying that I'm sorry, Charles, you died for me, and so everything's changed. But one of the big things that happens that you see Apocalypse wake up, and he wakes up and looks at his scanning equipment and goes, "Oh, this happened sooner than I expected, but it doesn't matter. Let the Order of Ascension begin now. Only the strongest survive." And for a while, every X-Men comic was rebooted. and we flash forward into the future, and it's the freaking Terminator movie. It's the Terminator movie. Everyone is dead. Not everyone. Most people are dead. Most humans are dead because Apocalypse, he did it. He freaking killed almost every human in North America. All the humans that aren't dead are in camps, and they're he's got his four horsemen who just it's to say they're better than the movie. I mean, one of the horsemen, you don't really know who he is. He's a mutant. We know that much for sure. But his name is literally Holocaust. He's he's a gigantic. He's in armor, but the armor is translucent. He looks like he's a skeleton that's floating in fire inside this translucent armor, and he's freaking terrifying. And I mean, that's just like that. And he refers to Apocalypse as father. And Apocalypse and his four horsemen rule almost the entire world. Him, him and four other people. This is why he needs them. This is why he needs the four horsemen. And I know in this, apparently, I've heard a lot of people say in this movie that the four horsemen just are really kind of pointless. But in the comic book, they're not. They're his generals. He rules the world, and they do what he says. They're like his lieutenants, basically, and they're badass, and they each have portions of the world they control in this world. And the only person that stops them, that resists them, are the X-Men, led, of course, by Magneto. Yeah, I know, right? So things change just a little. So even though Apocalypse won and destroyed everything, the X-Men still resist because Magneto takes up the dream of the friend that sacrificed himself for him. And even though he makes the X-Men, they don't actually stop Apocalypse like they did when Charles Xavier was there. And so I loved it. I thought it was amazing. The X-Men are quite different though. Big spoilers, blah blah blah. So Jean Grey isn't an X-Men. She's off with Wolverine. Her and Wolverine got together, actually. That's right. Wolverine only has one hand. The other hand's missing. He has his claws. But him and Jean Grey are married, I believe they are. And so let's see. Another one of the Horsemen in this universe is Mr. Sinister, and he really likes messing around with the genetics of mutants. And interestingly enough, because now he's a Horseman and he has access to a bunch of stuff, he's done a lot more experimenting. And one of his, and I kid you not, his sons is Scott Summers, Cyclops, and another one I believe is Havoc. And he's got both the Summers brothers, and the one Summers brother actually, or Cyclops, actually works for him and therefore works for Apocalypse in this universe. It's kind of weird. But anyways, the X-Men, the core group of X-Men is Magneto, I believe Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver are both X-Men because they're both very aware of the fact that Magneto is their father. Iceman, I believe, is one of the only core ones that's still there. I don't know if he's an actual X-Men in this universe. Like I remember videos show up, and it's a very dark version of Nightcrawler. I loved it. Oh, it was so good. He does something with his powers that we've never seen the original continuity Nightcrawler do. He will teleport pieces of your body off. This one guy is annoying him, so he literally grabs two of his fingers and teleports just with the fingers. I was like, that's impressive. Like, that's not something our Nightcrawler would do. And I don't get me wrong, I love him. I love Nightcrawler regardless, but that was awesome. And at the very end of the series, he is actually the only one capable of stopping the Age of Apocalypse version of Deadpool, who is nuking Savage Land. Who's like taking a flamethrower to the Savage Land, and yeah, he grabs his head and teleports his head off of his body. The healing factor is not going to work. Yeah, no, sorry, game over. But yeah, okay, so back to Apocalypse, though. So Apocalypse rules the world, basically, if the X-Men don't stop him. And, like, he doesn't just, like, go, okay, I'm gonna destroy the cities and blah, blah, blah. He, anyone that isn't strong, he kills. And being a mutant himself, he knows a lot of mutants are strong. Not all of them. He doesn't. Weak mutants can go with the humans. He thinks that everything that's weak should die. That's basically it. So he kills a bunch of humans, kills a bunch of mutants, and in the movie, he can yell really loud or something, and then Jean Grey with the Phoenix goes oh and takes him apart, and that's how he dies. And I don't know. In the final fight in Age of Apocalypse, just as Age of Apocalypse is ending, because they actually managed to go go back in time and stop and kill Professor X's son before he kills Professor X, which undoes the Age of Apocalypse. But before that, in the major big fight, and Magneto slug it out. Magneto makes himself some badass armor just out of random metal that's around, and they start freaking fighting. And Apocalypse is basically choking Magneto out, and he's like, "Why aren't you fighting back? I thought you were strong." And he goes, "I can't right now. I'm concentrating." And Apocalypse is like, "Wait, what? What are you concentrating on?" And he's like, "This." And all of a sudden, you hear Apocalypse go, "Whoa!" And he literally was he concentrated so hard on Apocalypse's blood and armor and everything, he rips Apocalypse in half. Game freaking over. Holy crap. Like, even Apocalypse had, like, if Apocalypse had the capability of speech, with one lung, like, there, one lung there, you both would go, go on, you got me. Oh. I mean, like, holy crap, man. Oh, and that was the other person that's in the X-Men now. It was Rogue in this film. Because Rogue and Magneto actually had a child together somehow. I don't know, figure that one out. And ironically, the child's name was Charles. I know, cool, right? Um, but no, yeah. So the Age of Apocalypse, like they couldn't do it in the movie. They'd have to somehow combine Terminators with Schindler's List, and and you know maybe the movie, kind of alien movie. I don't know. They couldn't do it. It would have to be rated NC-17 too, just with all the death and stuff. And the guy named Holocaust, that would piss people off big time. But anyways, though, yeah, like they haven't done Apocalypse justice, and I don't think they ever will. And the people who don't know Apocalypse, from what I know, Apocalypse is a very badass villain. Not as well known as someone like Magneto. Don't get me wrong, and not as clown shoes as, like, let's say Mesmero. Now Mesmero is an old school X-Men villain who's actually been on Ultimate Spider-Man a few times, from what if I'm remembering correctly. And they couldn't really do Mesmero right either, because Mesmero, as campy as Mesmero has the ability to hypnotize. He's a mutant with the ability to instantly hypnotize people. Now, one of the things I remember as a kid being like, wow, that'd be a really crazy power. But, like, remembering with some of the stuff, I realized Mesmero he was he was doing some criminal stuff. I forgot that he hypnotized a lot of women, and yeah, he did stuff that's not okay, not okay at all. And it was actually one of the things that was interesting, because it wasn't long after Phoenix came back, Jean Grey was Phoenix, that he came back and he actually managed to get everyone, all the X-Men, and he actually tried to molest Jean Grey. And every time he did, even under hypnosis, he'd get close to her and he'd go to touch her, and she'd manifest a goddamn phoenix bird around herself and burn his hands. Freaking hilarious. But anyways, that's been a little rant about Apocalypse and what I know about him, and why, even though I understand he's getting kind of hammered for X-Men Apocalypse, um, if they had done him even closer right, it would have been so much better, but far, far more adult than what they did with X-Men Apocalypse. But I don't know if they'll ever get there. Like I said in a previous video, they just really need to go dark with X-Men. Like really, just like make R-rated, violent, just like yeah, I just want to see it. But I don't know if it'll ever happen. And thank you for the comment. The one person that commented, you might know. And I was completely wrong in my last video. X-Men wasn't really the start of comic book movies. Blade was, and like I said when I said back to him, I almost forgot about Blade because it was so good and it still holds up. Like I've gone back and watched the original X-Men movie. It's not good. It's not good at all. And I remember how much I liked it back in the time, and I'm like, wow, my standards were so much lower then. But that's the thing, because Blade went above those standards. Plus, I didn't really read the Blade comics, so I was coming into it very fresh. But no, Blade was before X-Men, and it was the start of things. But to me, Blade was less nerdy and more of a cool. Like you didn't have to be a nerd to watch Blade. It was freaking awesome. It was blood and gore and great. And when it was not only the first comic movie, first R-rated comic book movie too. I mean, Deadpool was really good, but Blade was R-rated as well, and it was really well done. Blade 2 I really liked, and Blade 3 just it was bad. So I didn't even make it through the whole movie. I just stopped and I couldn't do it. But anyways, this has been a rant about Apocalypse. Um, like I said, leave me a comment if everything I've just said has been retconned and I'm completely wrong. I don't know if I am, but I don't think I am. I just thought there's something ironic about the fact that the guy that went back in time to kill Apocalypse was responsible for making him as strong as he was. It was really funny. Anyways, this has been an awkward Harry Shoulder rant. Um, hashtag real apocalypse for the lose. Uh, hashtag X-Men Rage. Hashtag reboot X-Men.